Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Tony Winston here. Got a request just the other day for a little work on Ain't Misbehavin, the great tune by Fat Swaller. And let's get it right into it. I'm going to do what I usually do, start off with kind of some simpler things, and hopefully we'll get into a little bit more advanced stuff. Fat Swaller was a stride piano player. And listen to his recording. It's really great. He sings it. It's got some funny parts in it, and of course, in the background, or maybe not in the background, but you'll hear it, his fabulous stride piano playing. All right, so stride, of course, just means you play a bass note and a chord, kind of like this. And, there's lots of different stride techniques. That's just the basic one. There's a lot of use of tenths, which I can't reach. So, I kind of roll them that way. If I can reach them, I do that sometimes. But my thumb's been kind of hurting today from, I don't know what, from stretching too many tenths, so I'm going to leave that out. And the song starts off with a great little intro. I think it's something like this. And then we get into the song. No one to talk with. And this would be a kind of a good song to just kind of keep, a little barrel house piano going. Just chords. Peter Martin calls this 4 on the floor. So it's starting off with a very simple progression. We've got E flat. It says major 7th. But with the melody right there on the root, we want to avoid that. So whenever you run into that situation, the common thing to do is make it a 6 chord. E flat 6. Okay? And then next we've got E diminished. And I did find this song in another real book in the key of C, which might be a good version to look at also. E flat is more or less of a guy's key for singing, and a girl's key would be up a 4th or a 5th, which would be A flat or B flat. So C might be a little bit high, but we'll look at it a little bit in that key also. All right, first the chords, E flat 6. Let's change it to that. Then E flat diminished. That's a diminished chord is just a stack of minor thirds. All right, you just build them up like that. And then we go to F minor 7th. That's an F minor triad with what you call the flat 7. All right, not always a black key, but it's always going to be 2 notes down from the root. Then the diminished chord, again, a different diminished chord, F sharp. And then we get up to G minor. And when you get up to a 3 chord like this, we call it a 3 chord because in E flat, 1, 2, 3, it's very similar to the 1 chord. In fact, you could say it's a substitute for the 1 chord. So if you played E flat there, that would be all right. You could come up like this, F minor, F diminished, and then just go right up to that, which would be, it kind of starts off like a G minor, but now I'm using the notes from my original chord, E flat. That sounds just fine. In fact, I think it even sounds better, but the G minor is nice too. And then we've got we want to get to A flat. And one way you could do that from the G minor is play a G augmented. Now that's just where you take a regular major chord and sharp the 5. Now, the reason that works, of course, that's the melody note too. But we could also do a jazzier way, which is to do a 2-5-1, 2-5-1 into A flat. So. All right. And there's just a very typical progression from the 4 chord down to the flat 7 chord. This is kind of a little bit reminiscent of negative harmony, but not really. And then there's the chord I was talking about, E flat with G as the bottom note. And there's C7 with a flat 9. And look, with a flat 9, look how much it's just like that E diminished chord. That was the 2nd chord of the song. So, you could do it. It's the same thing, basically. And right here, I love this little arrangement because, or this chart, because it's got this nice inner line, and you know how much I like the inner lines. So if you just play like a G7 chord, but instead of that D, make it that E that's written up there, and then just move that E down to E flat, and that automatically gives you the chord symbol that's above it, G augmented 7th. And then if you go to C 7th, but there's the D that's written in there, and then the flat 9. And then you could do the same thing with F13. I'm still hanging on to that melody note for whatever reason. And then, you've got the D in there. That makes it a F13 because that's the 13th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's easier to think of it as a 6th, but a 13. And then that makes it an F augmented. See? And then we've got B flat, it says sus, but it's basically a 9. You could just play the 9 chord, actually. You don't have to make it a sus, because the 9, it doesn't say 9, but that's the melody note, or the inner voicing note there. And then a C flat. Now watch out, that's really B, and that gives you the flat 9 on a B flat 7th chord. So that whole 2 measures can sound really good with some open voicings. To the top. Now here the major 7th is just fine. So I took the second ending that time, got 4 beats there. And then D7 to G7. Now there's so many, this is a 2-5-1 going to C minor. So I think typically people play a minor 7 flat 5 there to the G. I'm going to call it G altered this time because, when you do an augmented chord, we mostly think of that now as a flat 13. All right. There's the 6, also called the 13. If you have a 7 there, you have to call it a 13. And then if you flat it, you have a flatted 13. So that means it's an altered tension, a flat 9 or a sharp 9. So you have an altered tension there. And so, from a D minor 7 flat 5 to a G altered, it's going to sound just great going to C minor. And then we've got A flat. There's a nice open voicing for it. Or just play it like this. F7. Now here's where I always get screwed up because, cycle of fifths. What comes after F7? It goes to B flat next, not to C, but in this song goes to C. So, and then it goes where you expected it to go from the F7. So you got F7. You're expecting a B flat, and it's going to come up in a second. And here it is. All right, now, they've got an F on the bottom. That's kind of like a pedal tone. So you could keep F on the bottom for these 2 measures. All right, or you could really just play like F7 to, that'd be a B flat major. And then do like the diminished chord, kind of like the beginning of the song. Except we're now in B flat. And then here, instead of G minor, you could do B flat, right? And then we've got to get back to E flat somehow, so we'll just go to C7 and then follow the cycle of fifths. And then here we go back to the A section. Good way at the last 2 bars is to go E flat. They've got a 6-9 chord there. All right, we'll leave out the 5. There's the 6. There's the 9. Put the 5 back in. Root on top. Pretty standard voicing. You should know it in all 12 keys. Well, I say that, but if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to do that one in all 12 keys. You have to study more basic things like just how to play seventh chords in root position, or how to invert one of the chords on a 2-5-1, like if you're going to go 2-5-1 in A flat, B flat minor, move the top two notes down for E flat seventh, move the bottom two down for A flat major seventh. You know, you need to know stuff like that first. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the stride style. And, you know, we'll go over the left hand first. So we'll play the root like that, and then we'll come up and play a voicing of the chord. We need to have the third in the chord and the sixth or the seventh, whatever happens to be there. That's enough to get the chord. We'll go ahead and play the whole chord like that. All right, now I've got E on the bass, and E is the top note, so maybe I don't want that. Oh, that was the wrong chord. Sorry. What am I thinking? Yeah. All right. And now, stride is a difficult style, you know. You have to go down there and hit those bass notes. And, you know, I know some pretty good stride players, and they don't even look. They just can go there. You know, you have more than 5 senses, you know, besides sight, touch, hearing, and all that stuff. You have a sense of where you are. Like if you close your eyes and try to touch your fingers together, you can usually do it because, you know where your hands are. That's a sense. So you can know where E flat is down there. Well, you can hope you know. And there's kind of some pianistic tricks to doing this. Some people kind of sense where it is by the black keys, like, you know, they know about where it is, and then you can feel, oh, like that's the little space there, and there's E flat, things like that. Or if you're looking for C, you know, you can kind of hit those two black keys, and then, oops, yeah. All right, and now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I only have partial feeling, and I'm missing a muscle in my left hand, so I'm not very good at this. In fact, when I, you know, used to try to play stride, I always did my third finger like this. Every time I would go like that. And eventually, I've realized that my fifth finger works okay, so I should use it. And it helps you get a better sense of where to go, too. All right, so let's see, I lost my chart. Let me put it back up here. All right, we've got E flat. I liked it like that. And then the bass is coming up, so I moved the chord down, just because it's cool to do it that way. And then we've got, all right. Now, here, you know, you don't have time to go B flat, E flat, A flat, unless you double up the time there. So you could do something like that for the B flat, E flat. And then maybe hit the seventh here for A flat. And then D flat. How could we make that better? Yeah, keep the same note up on top would be nice. And also, you know, a way to make stride easier is just play the root and then like do the third and the seventh like that. That way you can almost reach it, and, you know, it's easier to find. F minor like that. See what I'm doing? C seventh, F minor. I suppose I could have done it like that, but you could do it right there at the root, third and seventh. B flat, seventh and third. And of course, anytime you can do one of these, you know, it breaks it up a little bit, because after a while, root chord gets a little boring. So, you know, part of the charm of the stride style is when they break it up. And sometimes it'll be like, you know, you'll have 2 chords here and then a couple of bass notes down there. All kinds of different ways, way beyond the scope of this video. Okay, so that's a little bit about the stride style. I also think it's just, you know, when you're doing stride, it's also good to know all those little reharmonization tricks as well. And, you know, also about things like, you know, how to imply a chord without playing the whole chord. Like when you do most listeners are going to hear that as the full chord. B flat minor, E flat seventh, and A flat, just with those 2 notes. All right, our ears are so accustomed to 2-5-1s that even when they're not completely there, we hear them. So a little stride then. Oops. So broke it up there a little bit. And it's really hard to do stride with a microphone in your way. So, but you heard me do a few little reharmonization ideas. The bridge, a couple ways of getting around it. And of course, it's not just the root. Sometimes, you know, if you've got the whole measure there, you can play the fifth as well. Root, fifth, root, fifth, root, fifth, root, fifth. That's called alternating bass. So here we go, bridge. All right, now maybe here would be a good place for tenths. Except it doesn't go to B flat there, so maybe it's not a great place for tenths. And, you know, every once in a while just playing half notes there is nice in the left hand. All right. Oh, you know, I should show you this one really cool Fat Swallow lick that he does in there. I think it's some part where he goes, "These are my pennies I'm saving for you," or something like that. He plays some stuff like that. But he's got this one riff that goes, and it's hard to reach now. It's a tenth, like this. It's on the E flat chord, and he goes like that. Hits those two. You know, if you can't reach it, that would sound pretty good too, but the tenth really makes it. So it's kind of like. Of course, he does it much better than that. It's like really fast or. Yeah. Hurts my hand just to think of it. Ain't Misbehavin. All right, great song. Hope you got something out of that. Got some new things coming out on the channel. Going to start getting a little bit more into classical. I'll be doing just as many jazz videos, but there's so much in the classical world that you can apply to jazz. All right, key of C. All right, now right away the chord's different. Instead of going to C sharp diminished like the other chart did, you know, it went up from the root just through there. But look at that diminished chord. It is a seventh, right, with a flat 9. So it's kind of the same thing. You know, if you're back there in E flat, you could go and play a C there, and then play a B flat 7th instead of that diminished chord there. So I like the diminished chords. All right. And you know, this chart does a lot of what I was saying to do on the other chart. You know, I said there, instead of playing G minor, play the E flat. You know, on this third measure. So this one comes up and ends up playing C6 like that. So now, getting a little advanced here, you know, when you play the root and you come up and play the chord, you can play a rootless voicing, which we've studied a lot on this channel. So there's a G7th. I call that box 1. This is part of the system that Ted Howell laid on me, and just had a little conversation with him on Facebook. He calls this method boxology instead of doxology. Boxology, I love that. So, you know, we analyze this chord in a box. But anyway, it's a G13 chord, and you know, you can use those voicings as well. And with the bass note in there, they're very clear sounding. You know exactly what they are. So I might do that from time to time. Okay, now C. Now this is interesting. I like going to an augmented chord there, But look, they've got E. If you did E augmented, it's the same chord, just like A flat augmented is really the same chord. And they've got a little C7th up above that too, kind of indicating that. So you can even, just play E flat 7th. They got the sharp 5 in there. And then we've got F. No, I don't think it did that. It did something different. Anyway, I would take both of these charts and transpose them into each other's keys, and then you'll have lots of good ideas for reharmonizing. All right, so here we go. From the top. Was so bad, but like I said, it's difficult to play this style with a microphone in your face. Second A section. And of course, a fancy run just fits in here so well. If you go to the 4 chord, a little easy thing to do would be something like that. So you just, all right, 3 fingers. And then we got to get to the bridge. How do they get to the bridge? They just do the 5 chord that takes you there.